Hearts to hearts and hands.
Damo.
Beneath the blue and white
Hope
we
we
stand. I've got a couple of very passionate North Melbourne people
yeah.
who have said to me, Purple,
Yeah.
I'm already online waiting for Damo to say the first positive thing about North in 5 years.
Well, I sang the song last night, Jim, and I tried to sing it just then. So I'm back. At least after one before. I need to see it again, Jim. I'm going to need to see it again. But what I did love about them, just to be serious here for a moment, they got to three-quarter time, and then Tristan Cherry just decided to just end this doubt about a win. He just took it over in that next 10 minutes, I thought, and had already been very good to that moment, but just gave Melbourne no chance thereafter. So loved that from him and loved it from a lot of other players.
Well, what I loved is you've got to remember it's Melbourne, and Melbourne have got Petrarca, Oliver, Viney, Gawn, arguably the best midfield in the comp. So to win contested possession by plus 19, to win clearance by plus 12, and have a disposal efficiency, Purple, of 79%. North Melbourne haven't produced that for 5 years. So that's the blue sky out of that. To be able to put that on a side like Melbourne, who are very, very good, even though they're not maybe where they were a few years back, they're still a very good side. So
But
I think they'll take that.
They were exciting. That's 6 goals in 6 minutes. Or whatever.
In that period.
Yeah, in that period.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
It was.
The run.
And they were exciting early
marking
too, with Curtis setting it up, didn't he? He had a good start to the game.
Back, Comden.
He was great, wasn't
What
he?
about him marking it?
Yeah.
It's good.
And
It's
then
good
you've
to
got,
see.
I love what Bailey Scott did in the last quarter too. He's been around for a long time and has suffered a fair few defeats, like a lot of his teammates, but I thought he really impacted when he needed to. And Larky's clearly benefited from Jack Darling being there. Finn O'Sullivan's showing more than enough in 2 games of footy. Sheasel wasn't his best game, but it wasn't.
Doesn't have to be.
It wasn't his worst either, and he was there when he needed to be. So, no, there's a lot to like about what they did. Again, let's see how they go against Adelaide next week and then how they go later on. But, look, if there is a turning point, hopefully we look back on round 2, 2025.
What does Clarko do there? Does he let him have a beer and a well done, or back into it?
Well, I hope he did, because what I did love, and again, Jim, we've both got families and friends who they've toiled hard, and and there were smiles on their faces. There were smiles on the players' faces, which I love too. So you can see, and I think they're allowed to celebrate these days, and they should celebrate, Bill. And if they wanted a beer, I hope he let them have them.
Did Clarko get a bit teary? Well, did he get a bit emotional?
Didn't see that if he did.
No, in the box he was quite.
Someone told me he got a bit emotional.
Yeah, okay.
No. Anyway, now I can't agree with any of that anymore. Let's move on to my man. Hit it, Rabs.
Rugby league.
Now I don't know. I love Peter V'landys, by the way.
What he does.
And I'm not being for 1 second condescending. He's added sizzle and presence to that game. He's been terrific as the head of the NRL.
Well, he also has in horse racing too.
Yes.
New South Wales horse racing. Yeah.
Well, I think he was already doing a great job in that space, wasn't he, when he took over rugby?
I think it was in that order. Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, so you can't deny the impact he has. But when he starts talking about numbers, when he starts talking about more people watching NRL than the AFL, that's where he loses me a touch. And I actually have gone to some figures, Purple.
You've done some research, Jim.
All right, so the
Unlike
only thing I can talk about is free-to-air television, because when it comes to pay TV, it's impossible to ever get any numbers.
They only produce them when they want to, pay TV operators in Australia.
So I have no idea how many people watch either AFL or NRL on Fox, because they're not to be found anywhere. So I can only quote free-to-air. First 2 rounds, 1.875 million more people. 2 rounds have more people have watched the AFL than the NRL.
Wow. Right.
Just a tick under 2 million people in more. 2 rounds of football more.
All right.
And then I go to the attendance fat.
Yes.
So the old turnstiles, people actually going to watch a game.
Yep.
First 2 rounds, AFL 795, 622. NRL 307,135. So 488,000 more people have gone to watch a game
Look at
of
you
AFL
do your
football
research.
in 2 rounds.
Who gave you these figures?
So, Bearsy might have given me a hand. So, what I'm saying is, with old Pete, where he says more people, Purple, I don't know where he's coming from. It's nonsense.
Well, we fired up, or tried to fire up, didn't we? Andrew Dillon, the AFL CEO,
tried to.
on Triple M on Saturday. And this is how he responded to Peter V'landys, because then Peter V'landys later in that weekend had a crack back. But Andrew Dillon first on the M's.
We really worry about ourselves, and we measure ourselves on traditional metrics like people turning up to games, people watching, how long they watch for, how many people play and
The
where
facts,
they play.
the actual fact.
Or we just call them traditional metrics.
Oh, right.
No,
right.
I do metrics, Bill.
Traditional metrics.
That audio travelled its way up to New South Wales on the M's, who also then had Peter V'landys on, and I reckon it's got under his skin there. So he had this to say in response to that.
Look, the AFL have always looked down their nose at rugby league. They treat us as second-class citizens. It's obvious we've got them rattled. We have a thing called Magic Round. All of a sudden, there's a gather round. I thought, what are they gathering? What are they gathering, sticks and stones? I read in the paper this week that they've got this new investment policy. It's the NRL's investment policy. So keep copying us. You won't beat us, but you can keep copying us. That's fine.
Well,
I've just given you the numbers, Purple. And they cannot be denied, and that's over 2 rounds. Yeah. So by the time you get to the end of the year, we're talking 20 million more people.
Well, he did claim equally in the News Limited publications last week that it surpassed Australian football on all metrics that concern him. So anyway.
And what are they? Social media? I don't even know what metrics he's talking about.
No, he's referring to a pay TV operation.
I love the fact that it's to and fro. That's all good. But let's stick close to the truth. All right, what else?
St Kilda. Look.
St Kilda.
Yeah, I want to go to St Kilda next, Bill, because, again, I've been hard on North and St Kilda, but what they did against Geelong, they set it up early, got to 47 points out, and then I was equally impressed with how they then held on in that final quarter, because the Cats were coming, and we had some lesser lights, didn't we? Anthony Caminiti had some moments late that were really positive, both in taking possession of the ball and just getting deft little hands and feet even on balls.
Who was
the Irish boy? Liam O'Connell took that big mark late. I had to actually look at the team sheet there to see who he was when he took that mark. But what a moment for him. But I loved, and I've got a soft spot for Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller. I thought he was fantastic. And Rowan Marshall, now that he's getting close to something that's resembling full fitness, he's not there yet, but it's close to it, and he was so good as well, as is the case with Sinclair when they do have a good performance. And I love Jack Higgins too, Jim.
So I ask you this, Fat, because that game featured 2 of the coaches that I liked the most in the comp.
Yep.
Chris Scott and Ross the Boss. Mm-hmm. Has Ross the Boss got under the skin of Chris Scott? Is he living in his head a bit?
Well, I reckon he is. And we all love Chris Scott, and he's one of the better coaches in the comp. We know that. But
100%.
Ross the Boss, you're right. And it's not the first time this has happened to the Cats at Marvel. And they come out, the tags were right. Whoever they sent Windhager to... Holmes, yeah, thank you, Rabs.
He tooled through that, Holmes, didn't he? But it was early. The damage was done early.
No, exactly. And they all worked. Mate, he had them out. They were feeding him, and they were harder for longer, and they deserved to win that. No doubt about that. So well done, you'd have to say. And I think Scotty even said it after the game. We're outplayed. And he coached beautifully, Ross Lyon.
Yep, he did. I'll move it on to Sydney, Jim, because they had lost their first 2. Now, arguably to the best 2 teams in it, Hawthorn and Brisbane Lions, and were good in both games, but they needed a win, and they got it with a courageous performance in Perth, having been 4 goals down in the first quarter against the Dockers. And I loved, as you know, what Chad Warner did in that last quarter. I feel that was as good as anything he's done. In isolation, I'm talking about the last quarter only. He led that team to a win. And then you had the second gamer, a guy who was playing for Werribee last year on a last hope to make something of a footy career, a guy by the name of Rolly Bice, who had a massive final 10 minutes. It kicked the goal that got him to back within 3 points. And then I think equally importantly, had some really calm moments when others were panicking around him after that point, Bill, to also get that ball and help it forward where Joel Amati took the big mark.
Bloody oath, he was good, the young boy from Werribee.
Rabbits. We started 17 minutes early, so don't start wrapping us up. We'll go as long as we want.
I'm just doing what Maury asked me to do.
All right. Go on then.
All right, more Damo next on the Rush Hour. More positives from round 2.
All right.
Continue with some positives. Collingwood's performance against the Bulldogs. I know we discussed that on the Saturday Rub, but just signing off on it, the performance of Dacos. And you mentioned, Bill, you felt Schultz had played one of his better games of his career, but particularly for Collingwood.
It was a good game.
It was.
Really good game.
And Josh Dacos was really good as well. So they've got their season back on track clearly now with wins against Port Adelaide and the Bulldogs following that opening round loss to GWS. Hawthorn's just doing everything right, as we know. Sydney, Essendon and Carlton, now the Scalps and the machinations they've got to work with now that Battle has just absolutely found himself a home there in the back line alongside Tom Barras. And look, we already knew what was happening with Sicily even in years gone by, but the luxury that allows Sam Mitchell to now do at any stage he wants. He did it again in the last quarter of Bill because the game was close and he went forward. Hardwick started forward, as we saw, and he kicked 2 goals early. He went back late. But, they've just got so many options now on what they can do. Loved what Adelaide did. We'll talk about what they did do to Essendon in a moment. But they've kicked 25 goals against Essendon and 21 goals against
on the road.
St Kilda. On the road. Yeah, so
at the MCG, it was an amazing performance.
Firepower. We spoke about it. Like, they're 3 big forwards, and they just wanted the ball.
Yeah.
And then they got all the other boys. That Jordan Dawson is a star.
Yep.
In the star. Yep. And Benny Keys is kicking goals. They're all
Keezer.
4 goals. Keezer.
Rochelle 4. Yeah, the forward line's really working, Bill, isn't it? And
Rankin.
What we've seen this year with it working is that they don't fly like Curnow and Mackay do often for the same contest, do they? They've somehow got it worked out to not get in each other's way, and that's why they're going to be able to.
And that's hard because you've got to be unselfish. One of it mightn't be all day, mightn't be Texas Day, so you've got to be unselfish forward.
Yep.
And we don't like that.
And just signing off, Port Adelaide squaring its season with a good win against Richmond, and Brisbane Lions toiling hard in what should not have been scheduled for 12:10 Brisbane time in the late March period. It's just wrong that this game was there because humidity
Fags wasn't happy.
No, he wasn't. Look, I've spoken to both clubs today, and they're both not happy about it either. The humidity bill effectively was 100 or just on the high 99s.
But I heard they're not training this week. Both sides will not train this week.
Because of what they
because of the heat.
Yeah.
Look, it's weird, isn't it?
No, I worked up there in Brisbane, as you know, for a couple of years in the late 90s, and Marcus Ashcroft, who at the time was one of the fittest players going around, he lost 6 kilograms in a game, similarly scheduled on a Sunday at midday in Brisbane. So it just should not happen. I cannot believe it's still happening.
I didn't see any of that game, Purple, but West Coast led it for pretty much 3/4 of the game.
They did.
So they must have been okay.
Yeah, and then they lost access to their 2 ruckmen in Bailey Williams and also Archer Reed because of the cramping.
Yeah.
So I mean, Williams just could not move. So it was really courageous performance from the Eagles in that perspective. Let's get to the negatives because Essendon, on top of being smashed by the Crows, they've released news today that Elijah Sartis Bill actually carried into that game a broken finger with which he played.
Wow.
And was okay compared with some teammates. So he's going to miss some footy, as will Archie Perkins with a quad injury. So already injury ravaged to this point, and now suffering more injuries. Massive game for the Bombers against Port Adelaide on Thursday night. So just outside Zach Merritt, Bill, I don't know what they've got to hang any form of
nothing really
hope on.
On that, what we saw, Zach Merritt was outstanding, and he kicked the goals. He kicked 4 goals, did everything. They haven't got any other A-graders.
No.
And they haven't got any firepower. Langford out, that hurts them, obviously.
It does.
And he kicked 43 last year. Stringer kicked 42. No Peter Wright. They just had no one up for the young schoolboy, the school teacher, and he kicked 3. Thomas, but that's about all they had. So disappointing.
Melbourne, we touched on them before. Let's now take a listen to what Simon Goodwin had to say in defence of his ruckman. His great ruckman, the 7 times All-Australian ruckman, Max Gawn, after the Tristan Cherry dominance yesterday.
Our people are really important to us, and Max is one of those guys. And today, I think he'll acknowledge that he got beaten by a really good opponent today. But you also got to realise that, in life, there are other things that are going on. So, we'll support Max. He's a great person. He's a great leader. And, there's a backstory to everyone's performance.
There's an obvious follow-up question there. Can you go?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to go into the details, but, he's someone that, there's footy and there's some stuff in life, and we just got to understand that people have backstories.
Just from a narrative perspective, Jim, I made sure I went and watched that back, not just sort of relied on what was written about it. Again, it's not for me to defend Simon Goodwin. He can do that himself. But I feel the moment got big on him in terms of trying to protect his player in a public sense. And that's just my take on that. I'm not going to delve into the story. I think we know or believe we know what he's referring to, but we're not going to make that public. That's up to Max Gawn to do so. So, yeah, look, it's a situation media-wise that the club, I think, could have done without, but there were reasons for it, is my take on it.
Okay, none of us know the reasons, but if it's something personal to Max, given how we all know in this conversation, all four of us, how good a human being he is, then we wish him well.
Yeah, exactly.
And Max Gawn will be on Mick in the Morning on Triple M Melbourne after 7 tomorrow morning as well.
Okay, well, he has to address it. And it's up to him how he wants to because his coach has put it now out there in the marketplace. And one thing about Max, he is always prepared to answer any question anyway. I'd imagine, even in that terrible period last year.
What about Jamarra, who wasn't at the game, the Western Bull or the Footscray game the other night, but he went to the NBL Wednesday and he went to the Melbourne Storm game Thursday. But that was, and then he posted, didn't he, where he was on Friday night.
They're the actions, Bill, of someone who is not committed to coming back. Now, that's just a reflection on what he's doing, and that is an observation that's being made by the Bulldogs as well. There's been some other sort of timing and punctuality issues as well when it comes to what he actually is doing training.
But have they got to deal with him that he doesn't have to train all the sessions and he can do what he wants? Or
it's a specific program they've got him on to the point where they hope to be able to unleash him again at some stage in the VFL, and that will be, I would imagine, 4 to 6 weeks before he even contemplates being elevated, because there's a trust issue that was broken last year in all of this.
While we're on the Western Bulldogs, they have a kid in Sam Darcy who might just do things in the next 150 games that we have never seen in the history of our game.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, seriously, you're talking about a 208 centimetre bloke who jumps, Bill, and marks it in the air.
Yeah.
Doesn't stand. He actually jumps to extend.
How are you going to stop that?
Well, but then when he hits the deck, he goes left hand, one arm pick up, right hand, one arm, left foot 70-metre pass. I mean, what he's doing as a kid, we might have never seen. That's Malcolm Blight at 208 centimetres.
Well, Stephen May put out, good luck to all the fullbacks that are going to play on this kid for the next 10 years, because he kicks goals on the right foot, but then in general play, he waltzes around on the left and goes bang.
Yeah, he does.
Unbelievable.
Look,
And look, Duke's got to get a bit more excited. Come on, Luke.
No, well, it's Beck. That's what it is. Yeah. Beck's actually contributed all the juice.
Yeah.
And Duke now has just got to sit back and acknowledge that.
But he's got to get up.
Publicly.
He's got to get up, Duke. Come on.
because Darcy Moore played well on him, I thought. He actually played well on him.
I don't know how you stop him.
Well,
As you say, when
if he played
jumped
badly, he would have kicked 7.
I
Right.
know.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, exactly. Hit the post twice.
And when people say he's the next big thing, he actually, he's just
Already
a big
is.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's already
exactly.
a big thing. Carlton, look, lost to Richmond, which they cannot excuse themselves of in round 1 as it was, and then they were okay against Hawthorn.
Yeah.
They were okay, and the game was still there to be won at three-quarter time. Now, it wasn't, and they fell away. But the 20-point loss to Hawthorn, it's not catastrophic, but at the same time, it's not where they wanted to be. And similar to Essendon, they're just going to have to make a statement at some stage pretty soon.
Update on Tom Stewart, have you got?
Yeah, it's at the lesser end, Bill, of what it could have been. So the fear was when he went down on Saturday night with a PCL damage that it could have been the 3-month version of that. At this stage, it's at the lesser end. Now, Geelong traditionally is not that forthcoming with the detail relating to news, but they've said that that's the case, and as such, we take them at their word, Bill, until we know otherwise. And he's not completely at this stage ruled out of even one game, but I'd be surprised if he didn't miss one or two, maybe, given it was so serious enough. One before I go to the Derby now, as they say in WA, is now huge coming up.
It is enormous.
Yeah, it is, Jim. It's last game of round 3, the 6:10 Melbourne time, obviously 3:10 Perth time slot. It's going to be massive, and if the Eagles can recover from that heat game against the Lions yesterday and produce even 3/4 of the form they produced for the first 3.5 quarters, well, it's game on here, and that means that Justin Longmuir's coaching is going to be absolutely in focus here, because bad loss to Geelong, and then an inability yesterday to contain Sydney late has left them with 0-2 start.
Do you know, Jim and Damo, there's no football in Melbourne for the next 3 Sundays.
What?
Why?
No football in Melbourne for the next 3 Sundays.
I don't get that.
Don't ask Fat. I've got nothing to do with the schedule. That's true, isn't it?
It is
you
true.
told me that.
Oh, yes, it is true.
Well, the other thing, Purple, because I know you used to cover Sheffield Shield cricket very closely.
I did.
The Shield final coming up in Adelaide next week.
Yep.
And because of the fact that that's coming up, suddenly stuff's being sent to me I've never seen before.
Really?
Is that Viv Richards? Who's that?
You got
the last
screen
time
up.
the game was played there.
Oh, don't tell me. Is that you?
That looks like
Well,
this.
the
Like
SS,
Jamie Siddons, I think you've got there.
the same sort
No,
of
I
setup.
think it's Jamie Siddons, Jim.
So that's what it looks like for me. Purple, great seeing you, and well done on the Kangaroos. Nice
Yes.
positivity
Hearts to
from
hearts.
you.